Let me tell you a story about a friend and a peer who helped not just give me a path to look at, but correct my own. The sanctorum is my home away from home. It is my place I get to study, grow, fail, and find out. It is in this space that I have an altar of work and machines, pieces I've been gifted, collected by friends, mentors, peers over the years that I have put on display, so that at my back I am always in good company. But before all of this, I was living in a van, a tattoo shop, on floors of friends, and eventually on the streets while coming up. But I had never lost the sight of my path I was set on. I grew up with my father, my uncles, all having Chicano and biker tattoos, being, in the culture of Chicano artwork and what it meant to be somebody who had an identity or a history to be told. And part of that was something that I understood from tattoo magazines, eventually to when I was a teenager getting into tattoo shops and working. I knew what it was, but not necessarily why it was what it was. So after a few years, I moved to LA, and let's fast forward to 2011. When I moved down to LA, I ended up at a shop meeting a bunch of artists that were guest spotting, including this guy right here, Mr. Capone. Capone was this big dude. He had a menacing look about him, but as soon as you got to sit down with him, he was probably one of the funniest, kindest dudes you would ever get to talk to. He was about his shit. He was about his history. And it was familiar on a lot of levels, from him speaking to him working. Everything that he was doing, from lettering, payasas, black and gray, portraits, it was just something that was extremely familiar to me at home. And I feel like at that time, at that age, I was around some of the best realism tattoo artists in the world. And I was trying to do stuff that was real and new and big and bold. But the foundations of where it came from and what made it more familiar to someone like myself was people like Capone's work. Capone is one of the hardest working people I've known and have the privilege of knowing in a long time. When he eventually retired back a few years ago to not tattoo full time, he wanted to get into artwork. It reminded me of something that I tell my students at seminars, which is, can you make a living off of your art? And about 100% of the people in the room raise their hand. Of course they can. But then I ask, how many of you can make a living off of art if you didn't have the crux of tattooing? Most of the hands go down. Capone was one of the few people that I had ever seen that didn't need tattooing to make a living and a passion for himself. He had drawing, painting, he had sculpting, he had etching. Everything was at his disposal. And to be gifted a machine after all these years from his legacy to put onto the altar, always as a reminder of the hard work that someone has, that there is nothing about this that is a job to him. To most people, it is a craft, it is a lifestyle. It is something that you can look at day to day and see a passion in what makes what it is and makes him him. What I've learned from my travels, what I've learned from the things that he's influenced and people that have influenced him, is that we don't aim to produce the best around or the greatest thing that you've ever seen to set the new standard or the bar. Sometimes what we are looking for is consistency. What Capone does amazingly is he does great work consistently. And because he does that, you see somebody who is telling stories. You're seeing somebody who has 100% awareness of culture and the solidarity that unfortunately over the years is dying out. What it comes from isn't always the brightest thing, but what ends up in our history, on our books, on our skin, in our artwork itself, is something that should never be lost. Capone is somebody that I am proud to have on my altar and in my life. To be gifted these were amazing. And as I share all the people on the altar coming over the next year, I want you to see that learning from multiple people, understanding multiple backgrounds, and those who make you in good company are worth traveling the world and finding your own path, but always remembering to correct it. Check out Capone's work right here. And if you want to see more podcasts, shows, anything from myself, check it all out at BrushesofDoom.com. See you there.